These peanuts will go on sale to you for the next 2 minutes and 2 minutes only at the low price of $1. But wait, there's more. As a little extra incentive, something to help us introduce this product back into the show, the Peterson Peanuts Company has asked us to place lucky coupons inside some of those bags of peanuts. So if you purchase a bag of peanuts this afternoon, please be sure to open them up and look inside. See if it may contain one of these lucky coupons. They're white in color and they say prize winner.
P.T. Barnum said, I'm a humbug. But that means I'm genuine, I'm true, I'm honest, I'm telling you what I am. And I'm going to show you how other humbugs manage to pull the wool over your eyes. I'm going to show you how the real humbugs do it. I'm going to show you how you're being fooled by the religionists. But I'm going to show you how I did it every single time, because I'm with you and you're with me and we're in this together.
Masculine, feminine, muscular or feet, I don't care how you say it. A feet tends to be cooties, and most people don't want cooties.
People want to follow you. You're either a leader or you're a loser. You lead the way. People are looking to be led. They are looking to be governed. They are looking to be directed. They are looking to be influenced. They want to be able to win back all the money they've ever lost in a casino. Those are buttons. And it's your job in life as a communicator, if you decide to accept the job, to push those buttons.
If you have a supersaturated solution of salt, it just sits there as a solution. It sloshes around like any other water. If you toss one tiny crystal of salt in, suddenly all of the salt materializes and you end up with a salt crystal this big.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
I think that life is a game even beyond what we say when we mean that strategically. I think there's a good chance that life is actually really a game, and that when we die we get off it and say that was really a nice ride, that was really cool, and that in order to enjoy that ride some of the reality has to be withdrawn for us.
People will buy it, but it better be the truth.
Cosmography begins. The Dark Ages still reign over all humanity, and the depth and persistence of this domination are only now becoming clear. This Dark Ages prison has no steel bars, chains, or locks. Instead, it is locked by disorientation and built from misinformation. Caught up in a plethora of conditioned reflexes and driven by the human ego, both warden and prisoner attempt meagerly to compete with God. All are intractably skeptical of what they do not understand. We are powerfully imprisoned in these dark ages simply by the terms in which we have been conditioned to think.
Negotiation, sales, persuasion, influence, manipulation, they're all the same word. People sitting out there right now will be horrified when they hear that. Oh, persuasion, control, manipulation, they're not the same word. Sales, I'm not a salesman. I'm not a marketing guy. Get a clue. You are a failure.
The spread of Jesus' name has reorganized more families, countries, and wealth than the invention of gunpowder. Gunpowder only fends off invaders or facilitates invasions. Jesus holds groups together.
The human bonding factor. Being visible to your audience, being present to your audience, being physically present to your audience will do what that tiny crystal of salt does. Will bring together all this supersaturation with ideas that are yours, that people have, around a human being, around you, and they need that. I took Joan Jett and got her a booking agent. That wasn't easy. Then I kicked the booking agent in the ass until he'd finally get going on the project, which wasn't easy either. She toured up and down a narrow strip of territory, the East Coast. And the first time she hit each club, she got a relatively small audience, but the word of mouth began to spread. The second time she hit each club, she almost filled the place. The third time, she packed the place. So the fourth time, the club guys who'd had to be beaten over the head to take her the first time were begging for her, and were finally willing to offer enough money to take Kenny Laguna's bank account and fill it back up again. Then his fucking asshole PR man, me, said, Kenny, you can't go back for the fourth trip in these markets, even though it's going to mean money. Now you have to take the next strip, Cleveland on down. Not the East Coast, a little bit more west. You have to cover it as methodically as you covered the East Coast. Why? Because you have to leave the East Coast hungry. 3 appearance bonding across the entire nation, all the way to California, before your first hit hits. Because if your first hit hits before you've laid this tinder of bonding all across the country's not going to catch fire. If you lay this fast enough and you do it in the right way, the country will catch fire. And it happened exactly as planned.
By the way, if anyone here is in advertising or marketing, kill yourself. It's a little thought. I'm just trying to plant seeds. Maybe one day they'll take root. I don't know. Seriously though, if you are, do. Not really. There's no rationalization for what you do, and you are Satan's little helpers. Okay? Kill yourself. Seriously. Oh, you know what Bill's doing now? He's going for the righteous indignation dollar. That's a big dollar. God damn it, I'm not doing that, you scumbags. Quit putting a goddamn dollar sign on every fucking thing on this planet. Ooh, the anger dollar. Huge. Huge in times of recession. Giant market. Bill's very bright to do that. I bet you sleep like fucking babies at night, don't you? What'd you do tonight, honey? Oh, we made arsenic childhood food now. Good night.
Most advertising sucks because the people creating it are usually younger than the target audience, and they create something that won't make them feel that they're creating advertising. And as a result, they're trying to entertain, and they're trying to amuse. Many times they're trying to win awards. So marketing is to change human behavior so that you turn a profit in your company. And it's not to entertain and it's not to amuse. Most advertising really doesn't suck. It means that it started out well, but the people who are running it, their perception of what marketing can do, that sucks. And they pull wonderfully powerful advertising off the market before it has a chance to take hold. The best marketed brand in history, almost anybody would agree with this, are Marlboro cigarettes. The reality is that nothing happened with Marlboro Country and the Marlboro Man and filter flavor flip-top box for the first year. The brand didn't budge. $18 million was invested into making the Marlboro Man a cultural icon. Nothing happened. But the owner was smart enough to stick with the campaign, and by changing nothing, the campaign finally took hold. And as I say, now it's the #1 selling cigarette in the world. 1 out of every 5 cigarettes sold on this planet is a Marlboro, and it's the same marketing that didn't work the first year.
Working as an account planner or brand planner, I am a human engineer. I try to affect millions of people to be more inclined to buy the product or service that I'm representing compared to our competition.
I take someone who doesn't necessarily believe or think they're even interested in a product, a concept, a philosophy, or an attitude, and I pitch them in such a way as I now have suspension of disbelief.
A seminal book in poker is The Body Language of Poker, where Mike Caro took his notations of how people interact and presented it in a way for poker players to profit from this knowledge.
One common involuntary tell is a shaking hand. When players suddenly start to shake, many players interpret that to mean that player is bluffing. But a player is never bluffing if his hand starts to shake suddenly. So much of my profit came from tells involving cigarettes. When somebody had puffed on a cigarette, if they were bluffing, they would almost never exhale conspicuously. Somebody who was more relaxed would let the smoke out all in one puff quite often. At the poker table, I'll have one general image, but within that image, I'll have certain sub-images that are specifically designed for each player. You should make friends with the player to your left and at the same time to declare war to the players on your right because you have a positional advantage over them. So you really want to neutralize the advantage of the player on your left and take advantage of the player on your right because remember the action goes clockwise in poker. Well, in real life the same thing is true. There are people who are going to have, because of their stature or their position in life or because they're holding the upper hand in a deal, they'll have positional advantage over you, so to speak. You want to neutralize that advantage too by making them less likely to want to pick you out as their victim. In other words, be nice to the people who have an advantage over you. Pick on the people you can have an advantage over. In real life, you don't know whether somebody has a secret or doesn't have a secret. And so the tells are really quite different.
You understand that poker is not a game of skill. Poker is a game of physiology, a game of psychology, a game of predicting the patterns and determining the revelations that other people are making unconsciously and competently. The coloration changes in their jowl, the proprioception of the base architecture of their neck, the sweat glands that emanate from the base of the lip, side of the nose and eyes, the pupillometric activity, the involuntary reflexology of the face, the biometric and biokinesic feedback. All of those changes can be recorded. There are tells, and they are everywhere. Poker is a game of examining tells. You are not prepared to play with me. You just think you are.
And my personality dictates that I always say that I'm winning, conveying a winning image, because there's no benefit to conveying a losing image. So if I'm running very bad and somebody at the table points out, gee, you're really being unlucky, I'll say, well, not really. I've been winning every day for the last 3 days, and I feel like I'm going to be really lucky in the next half hour. I do not want their sympathy. I do not want them to think of me as being a loser, because that's going to work against me in the game. That's going to inspire them. I want them to know that I intend to be lucky. I intend to win.
One of the most stringently enforced rules of censorship was that crime does not pay. Showing that crime does not pay means that the system is working. But there are a whole group of people that regularly perform acts that are outside of the law and profit from these illegal activities and have no worries of being caught. These are modern-day pirates.
I was lying, and I was being paid for it, because a magician tells lies and he is rewarded as a result. What a horrific message to sell a child. So essentially, I was a trained criminal.
Put us to the test. You get 100% of your money back at all times. Taking the information, the video, voice, and data, and transmitting with greater precision than anyone in the world today.
How many of you are sincerely fascinated by learning how these things work? Yes? Well, Phillips is fascinated by your presence in the booth.
He said to me yesterday, what exactly is going on at this meeting? Because he didn't have a clue. You don't know how true that is. He said, why are they here?
This is going to get a little frightening. Many of you think I'm a magician. I am not. There are magicians elsewhere in the room who will amuse you for a few moments.
I found I had a propensity, a proclivity for working with groups of people who normally wouldn't converge. And I had the ability to focus them on a single problem, reconcile the problem, and send them home for gifts. And we call that trade show. How would you like to win $5,000 in cash, tax-free, which in Canada is like $1 billion? How would you like to win that? It'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? Now remember, it's tax-free. So you may want to turn your badge around right now, because right now, if I see your name, you'll have to pay taxes. It's a loophole. And we know that here at Novell, IBM, Toshiba, Panasonic, we know right here
on the trade show floor that if I see that badge and I give you that $5,000 in cash, tax-free in just a moment, because it's as easy as making a simple decision between yes and no, hot or cold, yin or yang, up or down, black or white. Realize that in a moment I'll be asking one of you to make a decision. It's as easy as raising your hand. How many of you can do that? How many of you can raise your hand? If you can raise your hand, you're capable of winning $5,000 in your hand. Squeeze in, people. You're going to want to scooch in, because in a moment I'll be doing something so frightening you may not want to share it with others. That's pitch.
I mean, as a marketer is an artist. A marketer is an artist in human souls. A marketer is an artist in human souls who is able to carve using the stuff of human soul, not out of a desire to make some artificial thing like money, but for the love of it. I will only work with you on one condition. You and I will spend anywhere from 1 to 3 days in your environment. Whatever that environment is, you will have no managers there. You will have no assistants there. Your wife will not be there. There will be nobody standing in between you and me. I'm going to be as committed as hell about learning everything that I can about myself through the mirror of you, and learning everything that I can about you through the mirror of me. And that's an extremely important concept, because it means that I am never going to be selling something artificial. Why? Because it comes from me with as much intensity as it comes from you. You teach me about new aspects of me and teaching me who you are. And I do the same when teaching you who you are.
In poker, you can influence a person by perception as much as by reality. The same is true in marketing. You get people to perceive things that don't really have a basis in reality. There's one difference, though. In poker, you're supposed to lie. You're supposed to bluff. The word poker means to bluff. Whereas in advertising, you're not supposed to lie, you're not supposed to bluff. You are supposed to create perceptions, but not for the detriment of anybody. In poker, you are acting for the detriment of your opponents. In advertising, I think you've got to have a consciousness. You've got to have a conscience, because advertising and marketing are part of evolution, because they're mass communications. I think you have a obligation not to lie to people.
See, people don't see themselves as a brand. People don't see themselves as the product. People don't see themselves as a conduit of joy. You laugh, it sounds like a line. It sounds like a joke, conduit of joy. The fact is, it's what we are. We either connect or we don't exist.
It is not at all idealistic to say that it is time for people to come to life fully. It has to do with group IQ versus individual IQ. Chimpanzees have the biggest brains of any animals on the earth, aside from human beings. But the collective IQ of chimpanzees is idiotic. Baboons have much smaller individual brains than chimpanzees. They have much smaller individual IQs. But in groups, they're very smart. They have a very high group IQ. Jane Goodall is out there pleading on behalf of chimpanzees. Pleading because their habitat is going. What does that mean? Chimpanzees are not adaptable. Do you see anybody trooping around the world doing television appearances on behalf of baboons? Baboons are considered the rats of Africa. Why? Because it doesn't matter what environment you throw at them. They love it. That's having a high collective IQ. Corporations are so dead-brained, decorticated, that it's absurd. And why are they decorticated? For the very same reasons people have anime. For the very same reasons that people live lives of quiet desperation. Because they're leaving their selves, their souls, their emotions at the breakfast table. And they have to take them to work. And the time has come when the technology has made almost all of us creative workers.
I realized that by doing work with my clients from here, I was protected from meetings and committees and memos and nice people coming into my office to shoot the breeze. And it dawned on me that I could accomplish in 3 days what used to take me 5. And then I thought, hey, I ought to do this every week. I wrote a book called Quit Your Job, which begged people to leave their job. When I worked at big companies, I'd leave at 5. I'd never bring work home, and I'd never work on weekends. I just wanted to be home, to be with my wife and my kid. I think the most precious commodity in life is love. I don't know if that's a commodity. And next, I think, is time, because time is life. The Roper poll, the Harris poll, the Gallup poll, the universities of Pennsylvania and Maryland conduct studies each year on what Americans cherish the most. And it wasn't until 1998 that time went to #1 on the list. It's been #1 on the list ever since 1988 and will remain #1 for the rest of our lives, because people now realize that time is not money, but time is life. And if you run out of money, there are ways to scrounge up more. If you run out of time, there aren't.
The most successful people are the ones who play the probabilities, who do the most logical thing, who make the best decisions. Success at life is a decision-making process, because in life your decisions always matter. Nothing matters except making the right decisions as often as possible. And it's not your job in life to make sure that you're getting your fair share of luck.
Everybody seems to know this, that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. You do a lot of things to prepare to get yourself ready to do something, and then you put out the word so that other people know what you're trying to do, and eventually the preparation crisscrosses with the opportunity and something wonderful happens, and other people say, well, that was lucky. And the answer is, yes, it was lucky, but you created the circumstances for the luck. You were prepared, and then you made it possible for the opportunity to make itself known.
When I began rebuilding the business, we had one child, very young, I think a year and a half. My wife had one child inside her, and we were down to our last probably $1,500. So I was in a position where it was like, oh my God, and it was overwhelming. And I realized for the first time in my life I had to consider doing something outside of what it is I love to do. And I actually talked to a friend of mine about, representing F&I in the car industry or something, because I knew I was a good salesperson. A good salesperson is anyone who can convey emotionally the need for someone else to step into an opportunity. I said, there's a car show at Moscone. I said to my wife, do you think that I should go to the show? And she says, you need to do what you feel you need to do. I know that you're exhausted. Well, I got right out of bed and I went to that particular car show. And I cold called every single company I could walk up to. I walked around there. It took me a day and a half, and finally I got a company that would pay me $800 a day. And remember, that's a fraction of what I was paid as a trade show performer. I got a company that would pay me $800 a day to sell phone cards for them, to stop the crowd. And this was in the lobby. That company hired me 25 days a month for 4 months. So I don't believe in having a business card. Don't let that be your apprehension. Don't let not having the tools be your trepidation. These are the gift, the prize. You don't spend the money until you've made the money. And then you only spend a percentage of it, and you buy the best quality you can buy. You see that business card? Cheap. Strathmore stock. 60 pound. Holds a crease. Can you tear it? Absolutely. Looks like crap? It is crap. It's the same size of every other business card in my hand that you guys just gave me. These aren't even your cards. That card looks like crap too. One color. Nothing special about it. Let me see. What's it say on it? Name of the company in Atlanta. It's an agency. This guy's a CSO, Chief Strategic Officer. Wow, I'm impressed. So what? He's an officer. I know companies that are worth $10,000 a year, and the guy's a CEO. I will never make a criticism if I don't have a resolution. You see that card? This is the most impressive business card I've ever seen. It's mine. It took me 25 years to design this. This card is expensive. It's about $4 a card because of the stock. It doesn't fit in a Rolodex because it doesn't belong in a Rolodex. It's the kind of thing where your card should be so good that even if they don't like you, they won't throw it out because it demonstrates incredible marketing capability. Life is not about being liked. It's about being effective. My card is die cut. My card is foil stamped. My card is embossed. Crowds guaranteed. You're kidding. My card, instead of telling you that I'm a CEO, because who cares about my title, tells you about the result I generate. I build crowds. Guaranteed. What do you do, guaranteed?
People are successful in marketing because they love people, because they understand people, because they're fascinated with people. They really care about other people. They want to know what makes them tick. And as a result of that intense curiosity they have about people, they're able to talk to people better. And I think the better they're able to talk to people, the more successful they will be at marketing.
It's simple. What does the product actually do? This box, hold this box, hold this box. This saves lives. That saves lives. One life every 4 hours. Guaranteed. You know what they're going to ask you? What the hell is it?
If you're going to work with me, fuck the word image. Remove it from your vocabulary immediately. What we're going to do is dig into the very heart, soul, and guts of you. And we're going to find the you that is more passionate than any of the yous that you know. And we're going to build everything on the basis of that. The first step to being what any of us are hired to be as executives is this step of knowing the inner passions in yourself, knowing the inner child that capers in you, knowing your own delights, knowing the things that you feel frustrated about, even just ordinary, daily, mundane frustrations, and finding some way to make yourself feel better, finding means of consolation. What's the value, for example, of country and western music? I helped country and western in the 1970s cross over from a jail in the Bible Belt, a dungeon in the Bible Belt, to the mainstream. I love these people. I love these people down in Nashville. I didn't want to see them trapped. And it took me a long time to figure out why there was something in what they were offering, because we're not smart enough at the verbal level to really know what the value is of what we offer. That's true in rock and roll, it's true in country music, it's true in almost anything we do. The value of this music was all these songs about heartbreak, all these songs about your wife leaving you while you're out on the road or driving a truck. All of these songs give consolation to someone who feels fucked over and sad and depressed on a Friday night and needs to go to a bar and not just find friends, but even if he's just sitting there nursing his own beer, depressed as all hell, that song says, you're not alone. You have a validity. That song said it gave consolation. It said to a person in pain, and you and I and everybody we know has been in pain, a lot of our lives. It says to a person in pain, you are not alone. And that's one of the most important things you can say, but it only can say it if the person singing it and writing it is writing from that pain honestly.
There was a man in 1868 named George Hall who came up with the idea for a great hoax. He had seen this rock quarry with blue veins running through the rocks and had this idea that it could be carved to look like a giant and buried in the ground to be discovered as some sort of prehistoric man. And that's what he did. He had the rock carved in Chicago and then buried on his cousin's farm in upstate New York. He told his cousin to wait until he gave the sign. Incredibly enough, 6 months later, on a nearby farm, fossils were discovered, and that's when Hall decided to move. He had his cousin hire 2 workers to dig a well. As they were digging, they came across this bizarre sight, the giant. Well, news spread all over the place. People came from all around, and at first they were charged 25 cents to see the amazing giant, and then 50 cents. And then as the news spread further, there was a man named Hannum who decided to bring together a syndicate to buy the giant and take it on the road to tour. Now, by this time, Barnum had heard about it, and Barnum tried to buy out the syndicate, but Hannum refused. So Barnum decided to outfake the fake. Barnum claimed that he, in fact, had a real giant that he had bought from Hannum, and that Hannum was now showing nothing more than a fake. Well, Hannum sued Barnum, took him to court, and it was at court that Hall finally had to step forward and claim that the whole thing was a hoax from the very beginning. The judge ruled you can't be sued for claiming something is a fake when in fact it is a fake. Hannum, in disgust, who was amazed that so many people had come out to see Barnum's fake giant, said, "There's a sucker born every minute." When newspapers reported that Barnum had said, "There's a sucker born every minute," at first he denied he had ever said that. When it came up again sometime later, he said, well, he couldn't exactly recall saying that. The third time it came up, and by then, Barnum realized it was such a great quote, he said, "Of course I said that." And Barnum, who realized a good quote when he heard one, made sure that from then on, everyone associated that great quote with P.T. Barnum.